Okay, welcome everyone. So glad you are here for our Alzheimer's disease and dementia myths debunked. So there is unfortunately still a lot of misunderstanding about what dementia is and what it isn't. So we're going to cover some of the most common myths or misunderstandings, I think, about dementia in the next 30 minutes. But what I want us to do first is, well, first of all, I'm Jamie. To introduce ourselves. And we're with the James L. West Center for Dementia Care. Holly is on as well, and she is my colleague. And we are part of our Dementia IQ education here at the James L. West Center, and we provide free education in regards to dementia and caregiving. But the James L. West Center, we're a local nonprofit here in Fort Worth, and we serve persons impacted by dementia. And we do that through a variety of services. One of those services is our education that you're taking advantage of today. But we have long-term care, we have short-term care, we have dementia enhanced or dementia specialized rehab care, we have senior day program, and we have services that go into the home. So we really are able to provide care and support wherever you are at, whether you're in Fort Worth or you might be in a different state or a different country, or wherever you are at in your dementia and caregiving journey. So if you are interested about any of our services, we can certainly provide that information for you after today or after this program. But we're here to talk about what are these myths about dementia. Like I mentioned, there's a lot of misunderstanding about the disease or just kind of things that maybe not true that we might believe or that we were taught or what we see on media, TV and newsreels, that we see that a lot, that can cause confusion. So, like I mentioned, we're going to go over like the 10 most common misunderstandings, but I want you to think about or complete this sentence. I've always wondered if, or maybe I have heard X, Y, or Z, and I wonder if that's true. I wonder if it's true that coconut oil can prevent dementia. I wonder if, all of these things. Or I've been told that everybody's going to get Alzheimer's disease at one point. Is that true? So if you have any of those burning questions, please put them in chat. See if we cover it in the next few minutes. And then if I don't cover any of those, we'll come back to them. Okay. So put them in chat. And then I'm going to go through the most common to start with. But I think the most common myth about Alzheimer's disease and related dementias is that they are a normal part of aging. Everybody's going to get older and everybody's going to get dementia of some sort. Well, that's a myth. The truth is, Alzheimer's disease and the related dementias, they are not normal parts of aging. Dementia, and when I'll kind of discuss what dementia is, but dementia is a progressive brain disease. So it's a disease that somebody has that's in their brain that causes a variety of symptoms. And one of those symptoms is memory loss, but there's changes in thinking, changes in sleep, mood and behavior. But really, it's their brain cells are being attacked and it's affecting their ability to get through their day-to-day life. So they're just not able to function like they once were. And this is a disease of the brain. And why this is such a common misunderstanding or a common myth is that as we get older, there are some things that change. We do slow down a little bit. We're slower for us to process new information. It may take a little bit longer for us to recall, the name of the person, all those things. And sometimes that can look like forgetfulness or that they're having changes in thinking. And so there is that assumption, and we do hear it all the time. It's sometimes it's a joke, but sometimes people really believe, oh, well, that's just a normal part of getting older. They forgot something now because they're getting older. But just because we're getting older does not mean we're going to get dementia. And this misunderstanding or this myth does delay treatment and it does delay diagnosing. So the first thing we want you to understand and know what is true is that getting older is normal. We're all going to get older, but Alzheimer's disease and related dementia are not a normal part of aging. So myth number one, debunked. And then the second one is that Alzheimer's disease and dementia are the same thing. And we hear this I've heard this sometimes. It's like, well, my person has dementia, or they ask, when is my person's dementia going to turn into Alzheimer's disease? or at least they have dementia, but they don't have Alzheimer's disease. So there's just a lot of misunderstandings about this. And dementia is the umbrella term. So dementia captures any type of symptom that somebody has that is affecting their memory, but it's affecting their thinking and their daily functioning. Like I just mentioned, it can affect their sleep, their mood, their motor behavior, motor movement, all of these things. Alzheimer's disease is the most common type of dementia, but there are over 130 different types of dementia. And one of the Alzheimer's disease is common, but we hear about Lewy body dementia, there's vascular dementia, there's frontotemporal dementia. So again, a lot of different types of dementia underneath that umbrella term, with Alzheimer's disease being the most common. And why this is misunderstood is that a lot of times we use the word dementia and Alzheimer's disease interchangeably. A lot of the research goes into Alzheimer's disease because it is the most common, and it's what we just hear a lot more in conversations and in media. But there's this quote down here, but all Alzheimer's disease causes dementia. So anybody that has Alzheimer's disease is going to have the symptoms of dementia, the memory and thinking challenges. But not all dementia is Alzheimer's disease. Okay? So myth number 2 debunked. And the third myth is that only older people will get Alzheimer's disease or related dementias. And that is a myth. So now the truth is, most older people are the ones diagnosed with a dementia. And we usually say 65 and older, but we are starting to see a lot more people diagnosed in the early 60s and early 50s. And there is what we call a young onset diagnosis. There's young onset Alzheimer's disease, the other types of dementia, like a frontotemporal dementia. That disease typically tends to affect somebody when they're younger, maybe their 40s and their 50s. And this is important to understand this and know that that's not true, because it can delay diagnosis and treatment. If we're looking at somebody that's younger, having symptoms of dementia, memory and thinking and challenges, we may not automatically think dementia because they're not older, right? But age is our number one risk factor for getting dementia, but it's not exclusive. It's not exclusive symptom of the disease at older age. I know I've known somebody, been on our day program, that was 29, I believe. I think Holly was the director of the day program, and the gentleman was 29 when he was here, and we have some younger people at the West Center as well. All right, so our fourth myth is memory loss always means dementia. And now I mentioned earlier that there are some things change as we do get older. We have sometimes what we call a slowing down. But memory loss, or not all memory loss, is caused by dementia. There are many factors that can affect our memory, that can affect our thinking. And a lot of these are listed up here, but stress is one of those. So if we have long-term or chronic stress, anxiety, and depression, those can affect our memory and can affect our thinking. Poor sleep habits, maybe we're having some thyroid problems or an infection that's gone untreated or unnoticed, a side effect of medication, and then a variety of other medical conditions that can also cause memory and thinking challenges. And everybody forgets from time to time. I know that I do. I know when I'm in a stress state, I also forget a lot more often, right? But what makes dementia different is that there are actual brain changes, and these brain changes are severe enough that they interfere with somebody's independence and their ability to get through their day-to-day activities and routine on their own. And why this is kind of a myth is that a lot of what we see in media and maybe articles or what we see in movies is that memory loss is the only symptom we see of dementia. And while it is a very common symptom, I want you to understand it's not the only symptom, and it's also not, doesn't always mean dementia. Because as we get older, again, that's slowing down, and sometimes we do have forgetfulness that can kind of make us scared, like, oh gosh, I'm forgetting a lot more often, and then we automatically jump to a conclusion that it must be dementia, when it could very well be something else that's causing that memory loss, and we want to figure out what's the root cause of that memory loss. So memory loss has many causes. But while if you have persistent or worsening memory concerns, you do need to be evaluated by a healthcare professional, because we want to find out what's causing these changes in your brain. but also know that memory loss does not automatically mean somebody has dementia. And I also want to kind of side note here that memory loss is not the only symptom of dementia either. And I've been saying this, there's memory challenges, but there's thinking challenges, there's changes with sleep, changes with mood and behavior, changes with reasoning and judgment. It affects all areas of our brain too. So our next myth is if a family member has dementia, I'm going to get it also. Well, the truth is, having a family or a history of it in your family, it could be a parent, it could be a sibling, a grandparent, aunts or uncles, it has been shown that it can increase your risk for also developing dementia, but it does not guarantee that you will develop dementia. We call these risk factors. They are not deterministic, however. And here's the truth is many people have a family history with dementia in their family, and they never develop the disease. And on the other side, there are many people diagnosed with the disease that never had it in their family. So, and we believe this because there's a lot of confusion about dementia and Alzheimer's disease and other related dementias. And this confusion, and I would say probably fear about it, delays going to the doctor and asking these hard questions is why am I having these changes and what's causing it? But please know that genes can influence our risk, yes. And depending on what dementia we're talking about, that risk percentage is different for each kind of type of dementia. But in general terms, genes are not destiny. Okay, so they're not deterministic, but they can influence our risk. And I'll mention just a second, there's a lot of things that we can do that can offset this risk that involve brain health initiatives. So our next myth is that people with dementia don't understand what is going on around them. And here's the truth. Persons with dementia continue to experience emotions, relationships, joy, sadness, happiness, love, and connection throughout the entire course of their disease, whether it's early stages all the way up to very late stages. Now, communication will change. It can become more difficult. Their emotional awareness and their emotional reactions, that all stays the same. Their emotions and their feelings and how people make them feel and how the environment makes them feel, that all remains throughout the course of the disease. And why this is misunderstood a lot is that we mistake communication challenges or what we perceive as a lack of communication from somebody with dementia for a complete loss of understanding. And that's just not true at all. I think of somebody that may be in the late stages and maybe they don't have words anymore, or they're not speaking very much, or they don't seem to be engaged. When really we know from experience and from just interacting with them that they are absolutely being influenced by their environment and being influenced by the people around them. And so it's important to have and create joy and create love and create connection with them. Because as their abilities change, we know that happens, their need for dignity, respect, and connection is always going to remain. Those are the things that will always stay with somebody. And then our next myth is that there is nothing you can do after a dementia diagnosis. Well, the truth is, there is no cure for dementia, unfortunately. But there are treatments, there are support programs, there's lifestyle approaches and care strategies that can absolutely improve quality of life and help people live well with dementia. And when we talk about here at the West Center, it's our philosophy of care. We nurture what remains, those remaining strengths, and we facilitate and enhance their well-being and their quality of life. And a lot of times we think, well, if there's no cure, then there's no help. Kind of these hopeless feelings that we go to, but that's just not true. There is always something that we can do to support, again, the well-being and the quality of life of somebody with dementia in any stage of the disease. It's just what do we consider quality of life and well-being, right? Well, it's not a medication necessarily, but is it getting to be outside and being in nature? Is it having the grandkids around and laughing? That's what life is about. That's quality of life, right? And we facilitate that for persons with dementia. All right, in our next myth, no, well, people with dementia will become aggressive or violent. And I hear this a lot. Some people will ask, well, when are they going to become violent? And the truth is that most people with dementia are not violent. Now, some individuals may experience agitation. They will at some points have agitation. They will have frustration, fear, and then really sometimes challenging behavioral expressions during the disease. Because guess what? They're human beings, just like you and I have frustration and agitation and fear. Okay, they have the same thing. And how they respond to these feelings or respond to confusion, maybe pain, maybe overstimulation, what they're doing is they're communicating with us that there's an unmet need or that there's frustration or there's pain. And they may not have the words to communicate to us to say, hey, I'm in pain today, or I am confused about what you're doing and I don't like it. What they will do is they're going to use what they have left to express themselves. So we call these behavioral expressions, and they are always a form of communication. And sometimes they can be extreme, especially if we are not listening to them or our approach is bad or the environment is confusing. What they're doing is they're using what they have left to express and communicate that I am in pain, I'm feared, I'm scared, I'm overstimulated, I'm frustrated, those things. And the media often does focus on some of those challenging situations, or they dramatize them, and it does create an impression that aggression and maybe violence is an inevitable part of the disease, but it absolutely is not. And I will say, you might hear from a neighbor or from a friend, family, that there was an incident with their loved one, and those stories do stay with us longer. But please know that any type of behavior from somebody with dementia is communication. And we have to learn how to speak dementia, right? And respond appropriately to them. So the next myth is that there's medications, supplements, vaccines, or special foods that can prevent dementia. Excuse me. And the truth is that at this time, unfortunately, there is no medication, vaccine, supplement that has been shown that it can prevent dementia. What research continues to show over and over again that the most effective approaches to brain health, to aging with our healthy brain, is regular exercise, physical exercise. Having a good heart healthy diet is a brain healthy diet. Managing blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, managing anything that has to do with your heart, COPD, making sure those are managed. You're getting good quality sleep. You're managing your stress levels. You're staying socially engaged. You're also cognitively staying fit. So you're exercising your brain and your body, and you're maintaining overall health. So these areas, again, have been shown over and over and over again. If we practice good choices in those areas, those well-being areas of our life, that is what can help us really dramatically reduce our risk for dementia. But I know that there's a lot of supplements and a lot of marketing dollars that go into those memory enhancements or brain health pills that we can take. And we're human beings. We would love just to be able to take a pill and to prevent dementia. Wouldn't that be so easy? I would love to take a pill and lose 20 pounds. I'd love for that to happen too. But unfortunately, we don't have one of those right now. So there's no proven medication or supplement that prevents dementia. But healthy lifestyle choices really can absolutely support good brain health. And then our next myth, people with dementia cannot enjoy life or learn anything new. So we talked about that people with dementia absolutely know what's going on around them. And the truth with this is that people with dementia continue to have or can continue to experience meaningful relationships, purpose, meaning, joy, creativity, and they can learn new information. While it may be more challenging, they can still develop new habits. They can develop routines or get accustomed to routines. They can have emotional connections. They can continue to keep skills, particularly in early stages of the disease, but this remains true for the middle and later stages. That connection is so important. They can always have connections and create connections with other people, with nature, with their environment. So, we also, unfortunately, a lot of media and with this disease, there's a lot of focus on the loss and the decline rather than focusing on what the strengths are and what remains. Okay. But a diagnosis does change life. And it changes life not just for that person with the disease, but those that are caring for them. But it does not end it, because people with dementia absolutely retain their strengths. They retain skills. They can continue to learn. It's in different ways. And they can absolutely experience joy. They can experience meaningful moments. And again, it's those connections throughout the course of their disease process. They will always be able to do that. So those are the 10 most common myths that I went through pretty quickly, but I hope that cleared up some maybe misunderstandings from some of y'all. But I also wanted to check in chat to see if there was anything that we didn't cover or that anybody has any additional questions about.
There were a couple of questions, Jamie, that I answered. One was, I've heard if you can't smell peanut butter, is that a sign of Alzheimer's? And I referenced in there the 2013 study that was done. It was done with a very, very small group. They have never been able to replicate that study, so it is a myth. Now, the other thing I put in there is that smell is diminished. That is a normal part of aging, but that's not a conclusive. And again, that study was really, really small. The other question was if is it pronounced creatine,
Creatine.
improve brain health? And what the study shows on it is that people who have high levels of stress who don't have dementia, that it has been proven to improve memory and focus for those with high stress levels. However, it does not reverse dementia. That would be for those of us who don't have a dementia diagnosis. It can help us focus better, is what the research shows.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's a lot more research coming out about creatine because it's kind of or it's not new, but we're talking about it more, I should say. Yeah.
Yeah, you see it in those that are advertised, especially during Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy, all those shows that are good for us to watch. That's good for our brain. But they do tend to advertise during those shows. So just kind of keep that in mind. There's lots of things we can do for brain health.
Yeah.
So, but it's not going to reverse anything.
Yeah. And I would say if you are interested in like starting creatine or any other type, vitamins or anything like that, please work with your doctor to do that instead of just buying kind of what you see over the counter, because there's different types of, I'd say like creatine and different types of magnesium and all these things. And those different types, you would want to make sure you're getting the best one for your body. And those over the counter medications, you want to make sure that they don't interfere with any other prescribed medications that a doctor gives you too. So it is, and I'm not against it by any means. I just want you to work with your doctor to make sure that you're taking the right one and at the right dosage and at the right time for your situation. Were there any other questions or anything anybody wants maybe cleared up or that you've heard or you were wondering about?
Well, Jamie, you mentioned coconut oil earlier. Can you speak to that?
I can speak to coconut oil. There is no definitive study that says that coconut oil can prevent dementia or reverse it either. Now, there is good things in coconut oil. So if you wanted to start incorporating it, just like you would do with a supplement or a vitamin, talk to your doctor about using coconut oil. Because coconut oil has a lot of high saturated fats in it. So you want to make sure, well, do I weigh that with what I'm doing? So it's really just talking to your doctor for sure about those. But there's not really any studies that say it's prevents or reverses dementia.
And there's a couple of more questions, Jamie.
Yeah. Thoughts on the APOE34 gene increasing risk for dementia. So the APOE gene. There is 3 different variances to that particular gene, and everybody gets one of these genes from your parents, one from your mom and one from your dad. There's studies showing that one variant, so the APOE4 variant of that gene, does have a risk factor increase for Alzheimer's disease, but it's not deterministic. So it does show that it can increase your risk, but it's not going to determine whether you get dementia or not. There's another variant, I guess it's APOE3, that has been shown to decrease your risk for dementia. But again, that doesn't mean you won't get dementia. We really don't know what absolutely causes dementia, Alzheimer's disease, Lewy body, frontotemporal. We really don't know exactly what causes those, so we can't have definitive answers on these things, right? They're learning more and more the more research we do, but it's also can be more confusing. So the same with those. If you have it, it can increase your risk, but the best thing to do is to know it's not deterministic, and what healthy lifestyle choices can I do to decrease maybe that possible risk and just age healthy. So. And yes, please send this presentation out to family members. I've left this up for you because now that you all know what the truth is about these myths, I'm going to ask you to go share this because there's a lot of misunderstandings. A lot of people still believe these myths, and I'm going to ask you to help debunk these myths. Get out and educate your family members, your friends, share these slides. We are recording this program. We'll put it up on our YouTube channel in the next few days, so you can refer them to our YouTube channel for this program. And then we have, I want to say, 300 other programs on that channel about dementia and caregiving as well. So please do that. I will send an email this afternoon with a copy of these slides. I'll send you a link to our YouTube channel, but I'll also send you a calendar of our upcoming programs too. We are doing a lot in the month of June because June is Alzheimer's and Brain Health Awareness Month. One thing that's notable that we're doing in June, on June 22nd, we are going to do a Dementia IQ stream-a-thon education. So for 6 hours.
Oops.
I'm just streaming dementia education to raise awareness. But is there an upper age where if you haven't gotten dementia, that means you won't develop it? So there is, from 65 is where they start saying that's older adult and you get dementia. I think it's about 1 in 9 persons age 65 and older have dementia. 85 and older, it's about 1 in 3. So again, as we get older, our risk is increased. But if you hit about 90, 95 and you haven't gotten it yet, your risk decreases a little bit. Doesn't mean you're not going to get it, but it just kind of starts to decrease a little bit. And I think I got everything there. It is a lot of information. I appreciate y'all. Information more about our other services at the West Center. Any other last minute questions or comments? Or Holly, did I miss anything?
Nope, I think you got it. I encourage everybody, if you haven't been to our YouTube page, please go because there's so many videos on there. And then if you're on Facebook or Instagram, follow us on social media. Jamie and I make little short reels every week. And in this month, we're going to be making 2 a week. And we come on just with tips every single week. You can find things on there as well.
Well, we appreciate you. We will be looking for that email this afternoon. And you can always respond to the email. You can always reach out to myself or to Holly at any time for this, because we are here to walk alongside you throughout this journey, no matter where you're at. Thank y'all so much. Have a great rest of your day.